The Constitution says that all Kenyans have a right to adequate housing. The Constitution says that. And so when you talk about whose responsibility, it's the government's responsibility to make certain that housing at every price point for every social status of every Kenyan has access to adequate housing for themselves. And so when you find yourself living in inadequate housing environments because there's no provision for enough in regards to the stock or supply, that is the government's responsibility. And so it's their responsibility to provide clear pathways, clear incentives, clear mechanisms for developers or themselves to even build the housing that's needed and that's demanded. And so that's when you find people building in perhaps shoddy means, and then you have houses that then collapse. They're not necessarily being monitored, but the developers know that there's a demand, and so they cleverly figure out ways to build houses to meet a demand that they know that is out there. And so when you ask the responsibility for safeguarding, for ensuring, it is the government's. Now, I do believe that there is such a thing as a professional activism, and so if you are an urban developer, an urban planner, if you are a developer, I believe you do have a right, if you will, to do your work ethically, to do it in a way that it does provide something to society as well as to your business. And so there is such a thing that if I am sitting in a seat and I have a professional skill, I see myself sitting in that seat as an activist on behalf of who I'm working for. So I think that there's responsibilities and rights on both sides.
In terms of public investment into low-cost housing, the last bids that were done in Nairobi, for example, were in the 80s. So what has happened in between here? We've had a lot of informalization of housing and so on. So what therefore needs to be done in moving forward? We need, first of all, to make sure that we have sustainable urbanization strategies that are done so that people can, for example, if we are from Kitale, there should be enough for people to be there so that not everybody is moving to Nairobi and so on. Secondly, we need then to think about how to prevent the informal settlement, at the same time, how to improve what we are having. So we need to have a dual strategy to do that. The other bit also we need to do, speaking about Nairobi, we must of necessity think of densification, because we cannot afford to start sending our people going to Thika, that they're still in Nairobi or Machakos because they are going low-rise. So we need to start thinking of how we're actually going to densify the whole of the Eastlands so that we can accommodate people and we can put on the market a large stock of housing that will bring the rents down. Because also what we have in the housing is just crazy. I mean, if you look at the cost of land, it's just impossible. To start saying that you can actually have a structure that can then be afforded by someone who's just coming from college or so, it's almost impossible, and so on. So these things really need to be looked at. We need to look at all issues of technologies, we need to look at standards and so on, a whole lot of things that need to be done, but done in a very programmatic way, so that it's not a one-off. We need to have a clear program that we are actually going through. Otherwise, again, this is another time bomb.
Yeah, it is a responsibility of government to ensure that those services are provided and they are brought to the people, and also to make sure that those development plans are implemented for the benefit of the people. But as you clearly know, the Constitution says that the government is supposed to provide health or food to everyone. Nobody should go hungry. But how many people go hungry? There are millions, isn't it? There are thousands every day. But then the point that we need to all the time remember is that it is our responsibility to tell the government, hey, wait a minute, are you aware that I've not eaten for the last 5 days? Okay, wait a minute, are you aware that I don't have a house, you see? So it's also, you see, the government will be happy when there's no complaint, when nobody is pointing out these things. That is what it likes most. When everybody is happy, keeping quiet. And because we don't know sometimes, so we don't stand up and say, wait, this is provided for in the Constitution, but we are not doing it. So that is now where we fail as a citizen, as people, because we don't also point out our rights so that we can enjoy them. And even in criminal law, you know that there must be a complainant, isn't it? You can't just, okay, if somebody slaps you and you kept quiet, what happens? Nothing happens. But if you go and report, the first thing they will want to say, who is complaining? And that's when your issue will be sorted. That's how government works. So if we are complacent, we are happy, we are enjoying, yeah, fine. That is how the government wants.
As a follow-up to the gentleman's question, is the conflict between public property or public land and the need for housing, especially informal dwellings, when we have population surges like we have had in Nairobi. Is this actually causing the privatization of public land by individuals in informal sectors?
In life, there will be conflicts, right? There will be conflicts. I mean, I think that we have conflicts between human life, between wildlife, between agricultural land, between residential land, between, just in life, there is going to be conflict. And so I think that one of the things that that good planning does is to create some balance between all of those demands on the space that you need. And so I think that that's just another consequence of poor planning, or not necessarily poor planning, but poor participation in planning. Because if you don't have all of the voices, and to pick up what Elijah was saying in regards to people speaking for what they want, how you want to prioritize the resources that are there, because that's really what planning does, is to prioritize resources and to get enough voices in, then you will have some people saying, I need a larger chunk of this for whatever personal reason that I think that I need this. And it's not in some dialogue or deliberation in regards to what are the trade-offs of the spaces that we need to make certain that the spaces work for everyone. And so that's, I think, you can't get away from conflict. You can't get away from needing to spread out the diverse uses of land. But what is missing, and what is you must have, is good public participation inside of planning, inside of execution of plans. And that's one of our great challenges. I want to make certain that is a huge consequence to us struggling with this issue.
The bit, if I were to answer you direct, one of the very direct bit where we had that conflict, once upon a time, this city, most of the land in this city belonged to the public sector, either government, railway, or city council those days. The public land was given to the private. Then after you want now to go under quiet and build a low-cost housing, it is not possible. So I'm just hoping that we never go back through those cycles. So there one would say a question of conflict does arise between the public and the private.
Shefaru makes a comment on Twitter that more citizens should push for awareness of the required amenities in their residential areas. Information sharing is key. And Ian Odongo asking, should we incorporate urban planning in citizen participation?
Generally, as you must have realized that nowadays all processes are supposed to be inclusive. That is, if you are making a law, you must have participation by the citizens. Even planning also involves the citizens. So it's a process. It's not just a one-off event. It's not someone sitting down in an office somewhere and plan and come out with a plan and impose on people. People also participate, so it is there.
My name is Zahid Rajan. I stay at Honeysuckle Gardens, Advocacy in Eastlands. Now I have this question. I want to deconstruct this monster called government, and it's basically a many-headed hydrax which we really need to understand. We faced challenges over the last 8 years where we moved into a low-cost housing development. And the developer had showed us plans of how the whole entire land was going to be developed. 5 years later, we've got high-rise buildings sitting right next to us. The land has been sold. And we suddenly, we feel completely naked. We've got our security has actually gone to the dogs. Then what has happened is all land use has changed. We had the industry nearby, and they've sold land and they've given land away for a container depot. So we've got container trailers on our road 8 hours a day, causing a complete gridlock. They've destroyed the roads. They don't take no responsibility for fixing those roads. There are tensions between the MP and the industry itself. They've taken over they've planted acacia trees where there's supposed to be storm drainage water. And so we've had a demonstration where we went and try and create some awareness. The next thing was members of our estate got picked up by the police because the industry had bribed the police to go and pick up our members and force them to pay huge bails of 150,000 shillings. Finally, we've resorted to having a petition of 200 people within the thing, and we've just gone and seen the governor. And we have an MCA staying in our estate, and there are all kinds of tensions between these people as well, as to why didn't you bring it to me, and why did you take it to him? And so we keep telling them, look, we're really sick and tired of this politics. We only got one question: we want to live in a decent area, we want our roads, we want water, we want safety, we want security. But there's all this fighting going on. And everybody's saying this person's not going to do anything. So what is this government? What is this devolution? How does it work? Who's going to? Because at the end of the day, we're sort of completely helpless. If the police have been bribed, the local government's not acting, the industries have everybody in their pocket. What do we do as citizens where even members of our residents association have been arrested and intimidated? Where do we go from here?
I become afraid when someone from the commission says that it's hard to recover public land, because one of the problems with public land is in Kamukunji, it has even created fear. People nowadays put in their doors that this plot is not for sale, because nowadays people can buy your property while you are in, and then you're evicted. Because we have cases whereby the Isili social hall was sold to a developer private, and then we have a public market which was sold also, and then now we have a mall, and all this is in the name of public-private partnership. So sometimes I ask myself, it is called public-private partnership, but who is this public?
What is this process when you are trying to protect, to reclaim, and to manage land for the public or for residents, in the particular case of the example given?
I think the issue pointed out by my friend here is really a question of planning that went wrong at some point. But I think it's really symptomatic of the general problems that we have as far as land is concerned in our country. And nice planning was done. But as I'd said earlier on, after some time, the grabbers encroach, they change everything. They are able to get change of user. They bring in other things that have not been anticipated to be in those lands. So they completely change the entire planning process. And because of the way we are, issues of corruption, issues of kitu kidogo, then the leaders are bribed. So things really changed, and that you end up now getting huge lorries camping there, containers, and yet the area was residential, and probably the buildings were supposed to be probably one floor. So that is really the epitome of the problems that our country is facing. What is happening now is trying to undo that, and that's why we have the county government. I think one of the challenges is that the county government and also even the commission, because these are new structures that we have had after the new constitution, is also grappling with how to go about. Because one of the challenges that we are facing now is because of the poor planning, because of the grabbing. Now, even getting space for projects, it's so difficult, and because of the skyrocketing prices of land, to even put up a national project like, for instance, the standard gauge railway, most of the expense that goes to that project actually goes to buying of land, which is not supposed to be the case. The money should be going to the actual project, the work of but now a huge chunk of it, and even expanding a road like Outer Ring, most of the money goes into buying back land from the people. So I will look at it like it is a general malice that has afflicted our country, and we have to look at it that way, in my view.
Because I sort of want to narrow the specific question of this gentleman and people like him who are feeling this frustration. When the National Lands Commission sort of says, yes, this is a general problem, and shrugs, the rest of the populace begins to tremble. What is the recourse for residents such as these who are now surrounded by high rises and container depots and trucks. What is their immediate, right now, practical recourse? Because I think this is the frustration, is that everyone agrees that there is a problem, everyone agrees that there has been a problem for some time, and then that's it. But he has to go home to containers and trucks.
Yeah, what I would want to say is that, and I would also want to look at it together with Garang's question, is the Commission now has a process that is going on, which probably most of us are not aware, but the Commission is every day having hearings in terms that are known as review of grants and dispositions. So people could actually come, and what we need to do as people from your estate, for instance, is to organize yourselves. Garang, for instance, organize yourself with your leaders, and you present petition to the Commission for review of those grants. If really you are sure that the land has already been taken and people have titles for those land that have been set for public utilities, as public utilities, then you can petition the Commission to review, and the Commission actually has the powers to either revoke those titles or regularize them if they were not regular. So that is one avenue. And again, as you do that, there are other, like for instance, the county government. The county government, you also need to approach it, but as you've known in our country, corruption also fights back, yeah? So it's not something that you just wake up and like my friend Garang just fight, alone. It's something that you really need to up your game, get people on your side, and come to the Commission. You'll be given a hearing. They will be told to present their claim to ownership. What do they have that shows that they own the land? And you will also be asked, so you must also come with your documents. So those hearings have been going on. You heard about the land in Lamu, the ranches that had been taken. The people even who took them had not even been there. They just sat down and took the land. And while the Mwananchi out there still thinks this is my land. So we revoked, the Commission revoked them at some point. And so it's not something that is like impossible. It is possible, and it has happened before. And many other areas, schools, lands in Nakuru, in Kilifi, in Mombasa, the Commission is having hearings for the purposes of for looking at those titles, the propriety of those titles. And if the Commission finds that they were acquired irregularly, then they are revoked.
Yeah, I was just wondering, let me ask my colleague Elijah a little bit as a follow-up on that, because I've been following up a lot of these things. The things John has spoken about, I'm very aware of, that Isli thing. And if you go to Isli and talk about PPP, people can knife you because they don't want to hear that terminology, because to me it's grabbing. Is it possible for the Commission to proactively decide to do something, earth-shaking something around a few of these known things? So that, because there are serious cartels outside there, if you went to court, you will not win, because they'll have all the influence. So the hope of the people is actually on the Commission. And the Commission somehow, I don't know what magic you need to come up with and just do things so that people can know it's not business as usual.
And so I think that's a good question. Who is this government that we're talking about, and who is this public? Is it not we? If it's someone else, then let them please rise and let's talk to them. So I think that's a good question. When we are doing these PPPs, these are just consequences of lack of open data, because there's no reason these PPPs aren't put on some public place where we can actually investigate them and read what were the negotiations of these PPPs, who were they to benefit, what's the returns, what are we paying, if you will, inside of those PPPs. So that should be, that's just another consequence of lack of good open data. But you asked, what can he do, if you will? There should be, NEMA should have actually been in contact with him when those developments were coming on board next to his residence, and it was encroaching on his quality of life. NEMA should have been doing that, and you shouldn't have had to go around collecting 200 signatures. NEMA should have been going around doing that on your behalf, because that's their responsibility inside of doing an environmental impact assessment. And even next to my home, right, we discovered that there was an excavation going on right next to our home, and as we went to go talk with the developers, they do not have approval yet. NEMA had not done the process yet. They just knew. They just know that they're going to get approval, so why wait, if you will? Let us go ahead and get started, and the rest can just come along the way. And so with that kind of shared knowledge, that kind of shared understanding on the ground, that's when you will have all sorts of things, and it's hard to come back. Elijah, I want to know, is there an ombudsman that is in Nairobi County, or that represents the people inside of the county? That's another place that this citizens should be able to take their concerns to an ombudsman that represents their interests, that they can take them and actually gives them feedback on their concerns. I think that's kind of one of the challenges also, is people actually getting responses to issues. And so, Obama, he said it well, and he reminded us that the people aren't stupid. They're not blind. If we see somebody driving by in a new car, we will question, where did you get that car? And so people want to see bold leadership. People want to see decisive action coming from the government, the people that have the power to do so. So we can't wait. We can't hold back, or we cannot shy away from our responsibilities. We need bold action. We need decisive leadership, and that's just what I think is missing.
Right now, I know for sure that the University of Nairobi has been commissioned to do some guidelines for different zones. So when the consultations come, I will urge all of you, to go and present. So say, we don't want this under mixed development. You have all sorts of things coming there. So that you can actually describe moving forward, what is it that you like to see in various neighborhoods. So this is a challenge to all of us, that when that time comes, we need to be available so that we can influence what will go into those guidelines.
In terms of going to Ngamau, for example, right, you drop the letter at the reception and that's the end of it. I mean, the office of the ombudsman, I know the administrative office, you can go to the chief justice or the chair or something. That's probably easier. Like in Ngamau, people have, they've tried and got completely frustrated, your letters disappear. So is there anybody in particular that we should be talking to, who have a name that we can go and see so we can get some real action?
I think most of these institutions are in sickbed, all of them, whether it is NEMA, wherever you want to go, we need reform all over them, and so that to move it moving forward. That's in fact the sadness about it. I come from an association where we have a chain of things which we are complaining about what should be done and not being done. We've met them, no response, and so on. So it's one of those things that need radical surgery.
Constant Cap commenting that urban planning is done by the people and not for the people. What are we planning, and who are we planning for? The second one, what is the biggest question, and this one in particular to you, Elijah, which is, what is the biggest challenge in reclaiming stolen public amenities and land? And this particularly for the National Lands Commission. And the third one is, the following up on your prescriptive statement, and the expression that is on the ground and also online. Have citizens now lost faith in the government's capacity to address land-grabbing cases? This, a question from Madam Magoya.
Ideally, the planning should be done by people, with everybody involved. Participatory planning is the buzzword and so on. But I have also seen, and I must also challenge ourselves, I was involved in the master planning for the city and so on. And we organized a lot of meetings. Not very many people came. So I guess, again, it's a question of when that time comes. Just like I'm saying, guidelines are going to be produced. We need to be there and say, look, this is what we want to see in our neighborhoods and so on. So people being proactive from that end, I think, will be useful. Putting pressure and saying you can't plan, we have not been involved, is your legitimate right and so on and so on. But you also need to come to the meetings with that agenda. What is it that you like to see happen? What are you planning to do yourself to make sure your neighbor, you are not also part of the problem of sorting out messes, because also we have also citizens who have also disfigured the neighborhoods and so on. So we also need to be on the guard against ourselves and also around the rules. The other point that needs to make planning people-driven is also to question the rules that we have and make sure that we have those that work for us and work for the better good of the people and so on. So in principle, that's what it is. The Constitution also makes it very clear. All the county laws and so on, planning laws clearly say people must be involved. So again, to me, what I have also seen from experience is unless people are organized so that you engage in an organized manner, then that option will just come and pass.
Generally, the Commission, as we know, has the mandate to look into those lands that had been grabbed, or rather that had been taken away, public land. And normally we carry out hearings to determine, to know how those lands were taken, and then when we find that it was done, it was stolen, then the commission can revoke those titles. So, but the challenge that we've been facing is that one is that we, the citizens, are also not helping the process. In that, you've heard from our friend John that it's almost like nothing can be done. But if we were to ask him, has he ever come to the commission? Have they ever organized themselves with their MCAs, with their, the people around there who are affected, and come and brought a petition to the commission to institute a hearing to look at the legality of the land? Because probably even, I don't have the facts, but from what he's saying, probably the land still belongs to the county government. If it is a private, public, that still means it's just an arrangement that is time bound, that is continuing. So now we can't come in there. So where would the petition go? Probably then the county government or whoever was involved in drawing up those agreements. And as you said, do we see those agreements? Do we really know? So the first port of call would be to go and ask for those agreements. What do they say? Where are we in those agreements? What are the benefits that we now get as the locals of Eastleigh? So, because of course that agreement is also, such arrangements are also supposed to benefit the locals. So those are the kind of things that before we could even move forward and talk about reclaiming, we need to also take time and look at these things critically. Look at where the gaps are. Find out where there's a problem. Then from there, you take the necessary steps. You can come to the commission. Then the commission can then grant you an hearing on the same land, and then the other party will be called, and you will be called. You bring your papers, they bring their papers, and show how they acquired those lands. And in the event that it was irregularly done, it was through corruption, whatever, then the commission can then revoke those titles and you get your land back. And so another problem again is the court system. You know that there are so many, the cases that we have now are very many. It is clogged, and when you go there, it could take time because we have very many cases on land. So for them to be completed, sometimes it takes long. So, and in the process, you get frustrated, and somehow they fizzle out of the way. You get tired along the road. So that's why we are coming up now with alternative dispute resolutions. We are looking for a framework in which now some of these cases can be settled without having to go to court. And of course, again, corruption is not out there even within the land system previously. So many of those things happened, and of course now we have a very hard time because some of them really have titles that look genuine on the face value. And so now to revoke them also is another problem. To get the truth is also another problem, and it takes time, and it's not easy. It's very expensive. But then that is how we can, then if we can come on board as citizens who are affected, bring up those cases to the commission, and you have a valid case, the commission will always grant you hearings. We will call the other parties, and we will have hearings, and we'll see.
I think the question is, should the citizens lose faith in the capacity of the government to act decisively or in time on their behalf? Well, the truth of the matter is that we can't lose faith, if you will. We should never grow tired of doing good, and because there's too much at stake, if you will. And so I think that one of the things we have to continue to find inspiration, if you will. I think earlier we took a moment to recognize the contributions of Prof and her untireless effort to want to continue to stand for the transformation of good for society. I think that we have the same steadfastness and continue to have the same resolve to make certain that these changes do come that we desire to see. I think that we also cannot always be throwing stones, pointing fingers at other people. I think we need to be looking at ourselves introspectively. As you said, in regards to earlier this year when they were doing the public budgeting participation events, I know in Kilimani, 25 people may have shown up. That's a high number, and so I think that that's our responsibility. That is completely our responsibility to be at every time they call us to be there. Now, I do have some concerns about the times that they hold them, the ways that we are notified about them, this, that, and the other, and we can talk about that later. But when you get the invitation, I think it is one of those things that you should batten down the hatches and get there any way you can to get your voice heard, to make certain that your concerns are registered, and to continue to follow them through to completion.
My concern is I feel like Kenyans as common citizens, they are being overburdened in such a way that they fought for elected members. Then we have commissions who are actually on the payrolls using that taxpayers' money. Now, when you say that they have to come back again and start indulging in issues in which they entrusted fellow Kenyans to do for them, then I find that there is something wrong somewhere, and maybe Kenyans are being forced maybe to use other means, which is not proper. Now, my issue is the Commission should tell us the measures and mechanisms that it has put in place in pertaining the history of land issues in Kenya. But coming back to the public again, then we'll still be messing up with the public, because we know the Kenyan system, how it operates.
The Commission cannot be everywhere. I've said that we have already cases that we are investigating. We are already holding hearings to check into those that we feel were irregularly acquired. So the issue is we cannot be everywhere. I mean, there are so many grabbed lands all over the country. But it would even be better if you now, who is there, you would come over even to the Commission and notify the Commission. Because we are a young Commission that is also growing. And we are just putting up structures. Now, for instance, in all the counties, we have the secretaries to the board, and the boards are there. So you could, even out there, approach the boards and put up your complaint. So I think it will not really be easy for the Commission to know. I mean, let's just take primary schools in the country. Over 40,000 primary schools that we have in the country. We can't really be everywhere to be able to know up the status of each and every school, to know whether the land has been grabbed. So we should work together. To me, really, I think it is a win-win situation for you to come forward, and then we walk through this journey of recovering this land that has been stolen. A
comment, once again, we need to look at densification as regards housing to reduce the sprawl and the cost of housing. I think Egavi had spoken to that. Back to Lands Office. I'm afraid the Lands Offices are not going to get away with this. A lot of comments on Lands Office. What is Lands Office doing to encourage citizen participation in the matters of land grabbing, since it is a joint effort? That's one. The second, and that's from Schaefer Rue. Kenyan feminist, citizens must demand for the realization and the prioritization of the rights stipulated in Katiba. And from someone who didn't quite catch who this was from, is there any hope for the Dongo Commission and the Dongo Commission report?
I've said that our offices are open, and in case you are aware of a land that has a public land, school, whatever, that has been grabbed, and somebody has a title deed, one way to participate is to actually get your all the documentation about those parcels of land that you think someone has grabbed, and then you write to the Commission. You can come. Our offices are open all the time. You can come, and then you present that petition, and then that petition is looked into by the Commission, and if there's merit enough, then the Commission can call for a review of that grant, because the other party must be holding a title, isn't it, for it to be grabbed. That is why the silly issue is a bit difficult, because probably even the guy who did put up a mall does not have a title. So if somebody has already been allocated the land and has a title and it's a public land, then that person will be asked to come over and explain how he or she acquired that land. So by you coming up and informing the Commission about those developments, then we will be helping in moving forward and sorting out this problem of grabbing of public land. Then the other issue is we also need to be more active in protecting our land. You see, if you have a primary school and you have a play field, a playing field where children play, and then children don't play, they don't even go there. It's not even fenced. That is, okay, how are you then showing that you are really concerned? I think the best thing could have been to actually use them for the purposes intended. So we should, if we have a primary school, then let us, and there is a field, let us put up a field, a real field, and children should always be playing. Because those grabbers cannot just come when there are so many children playing, when there are structures put in place. But the moment we just, it's like we've forgotten. So, and I know many of them walk around looking at, nobody seems to be here, and they just move ahead to grab those lands. So we also need to participate further by making sure that whatever the land was intended for is actually used in that manner.
I would like to give you a small experience we had, again, during the recent Nairobi master plan. You know, the things were put in nation and standard, and then when we were asking people, how did you get the information when you came here? Only 11% came there because they had heard from the newspaper. So this, again, perhaps, and those are the official sources where the counties or whatever are supposed to be putting. So the need to go social media and so on is very useful in relaying this information so that perhaps you can reach a lot of people. Because a lot of them, for example, had heard about it through churches and so on. The kind of things that perhaps official people don't use and so on. So diversifying, I think, our sources of sending the information would be one way of encouraging participation. But on the other hand, there are some things which are done routinely, like the budgeting process. I think people should know, and when the time comes, you should demand. So again, we should also not just wait to be reached to, but also we should actually demand, because that one is known by September, they will start the process. So again, that knowledge should be known, and we be, again, as I've been saying, be proactive.
The issue of participation is actually, it's a serious one to me, because I think if we really participated in protecting those, our institutions, our public spaces, we would really move a lot in terms of achieving that objective. There's a question about why the commission is not really visible unless there is a major issue. That's when the commission is heard. I would want to say that there's a lot that is taking place behind the scenes that probably we are not aware of. We have so many complaints that we've received. The commission is tackling them. We also receive, we carry out hearings. I think you read in the papers, hearings have been scheduled, and those are all pieces of land that have been grabbed mostly. So it's going on, but probably we've never had time to know. And maybe the commission has not really come out to specifically that issue that you are aware of. That's why I'm saying, let's also come up. Let's also bring those issues so that we can all be able to tackle. And then someone asked, how come the grabber has legitimate title and not the school? Yeah, it's really basically corruption. There's nothing that I can really add on that. You see, the corruption culture that has permeated our country has gone to probably all areas, even the land, the ministry, and the staff that are concerned with land previously. So now we are getting those titles that people have acquired, and that is why this opportunity is there for us now as a commission to receive those complaints and to look into them and see at the legitimacy. So it's really a country-wide phenomenon that we are trying to grapple with and trying to sort it out right now. So my advice again would be, let that guy who has the genuine title call for an hearing. And then the commission can look into that and can decide, make a ruling on the legality of that title deed. There's no one with a title grabber there. They are small, institutional, big, all who grab, those who grab, small places like places which are not meant for kiosks, you put there, you are a grabber. Those who grab big things, so we have that, and unfortunately it has been institutionalized. There are cartels behind it, and the grabbing process goes through, because for me the grabber is that one also who provides permission for something that should not be provided.
which then enables you to go and get a title. You know, you are facilitating that grabbing process and so on. It's something that really needs to come to an end. And I think the Commission has a lot of work to bring some of this vocabulary to an end, and soon by really being proactive. What you raised around passive tenants and so on, I think that's something that needs to be addressed. Because while you are in a neighborhood, that's your place. You need to engage. You need to, whether you form tenants association and so on, through which you can then make your case to make your place clean and so on. It's a culture that we need to build on, including people even in the informal settlement. They can ill afford not to make their neighborhoods better because they can't. If they came together and said, now, we're going to make sure that rubbish is not thrown around here, the place will be clean, it will be healthy and so on. So even in those very small ways, we need to begin to be proud of the places we are and we begin to own. So ownership of the city is very important, regardless whether you are a tenant or you are a landlord. After all, we have more tenants than landlords. So people should also be aware of that, that's actually what is there. And we have had some people who have been around as tenants more than 50 years. In Woodleys, so can you begin to say, and you have generations there and so on. So being a tenant should not stop you from liking the place and making it worthwhile ones. I think I couldn't agree more with Kennedy with the power of information being given ahead of time. I think that is something that all institutions must do, because people can never engage if they don't have enough information. So I think that is something that really needs to be done, and we need to find ways on how we can make it happen.
People maybe living in Nairobi but voting elsewhere. I think that kind of migrant mentality, where my feet is currently, doesn't necessarily mean completely where my heart is. And so how do we have people see that, you're temporary, or maybe even your 50-year station of being a tenant does not abscond you from your responsibility as a citizen or inside of that place. But there are also other mechanisms or people that are inside of seats of government that are responsible for areas and how to keep them informed, keep them engaged. So the MCAs in those areas, the ward representatives, they have a responsibility for making certain the people that they feel a place of belonging, that the place where they are, if it's a temporary period, if it's a long stay, that they are very informed about what's happening in their area, that they have some connection to it, and they have a vehicle or a pathway to give their concerns and their input. And so that is the responsibility of our elected officials and the people that are appointed in those areas. Not only to come see the people at election time. This is something that is continuous. It is their responsibility to make certain. And that's how people get a sense of belonging, because someone is looking after them and hearing their concerns. So the question about why isn't this information widely known, I think that's the million-dollar question. And so hopefully we can resolve this. I think open data is one of them. I think it's continuous engagements like this. But I think the person about Kasarani Stadium, if we don't mind ourselves, KICC might go the same way with Samsung and many other places. As people are trying to figure out ways to, the issue is about, well, I'm sure they're all done under the banner of PPP, but they are trying to figure out ways to leverage on private sponsorship to pick up some of the costs that it takes to operate some of these places. And so the question is, and one of the challenge is historical preservation. So many of these spaces, we don't have a strong historical preservation system here in Kenya. So many of the buildings, and we're losing many of them because they're just being demolished because of, let's get something brand spanking new, or if you will, let's have something replace this. But we are not taking stock in value of the culture, of the designs, of the aesthetics, what actually took place in some of these spaces. We heard that the Kenyatta home is going to be demolished so they can build up a new house for the president. That's pretty much historical. Whatever took place in that home is a historical something that maybe perhaps should be recognized of what took during that place. So let's not be so quick to try to assimilate or attach ourselves to private venues for lack of losing our own values, taking stock and pride in what we've built, and we should preserve it.
What I would love to do is to, rather than summarize the points myself, is give each of the panelists literally a minute to state what you feel are the salient issues and what we should be walking away from here tonight thinking about as we close the session today. You will be able to, of course, if you follow Mjadala 5, hashtag Mjadala 5, then you will be able to see all of the comments that have been coming in on social media. And thank you so much to everyone who is participating online. We appreciate the comments, and perhaps just to allow the panelists to give a closing statement, and hopefully that will answer some of the possibly about 12 tweets that I've got here, plus everything that I'm monitoring here, if that is agreeable with everyone.
What can be done, if you will. So the county, in regards to its responsibility for planning and protecting or making public spaces available, they can do development incentives. That is one thing that is completely within their purview, that they can incentivize certain promoting the values of development that we want to see done with private sectors. I think that that's not being utilized enough, and so there needs to, I just think it's lack of creativity, if you will, but I think that is completely inside of their purview. I think also we should be enacting this county management board that has people co-managing the county and the cities within in a joint manner, and I think we should be holding open forums, if you will, of those periods in which they are deliberating on development approvals. That should be done in an open manner so that everyone has access to that information in real time. Just if we're live streaming now, there's no reason that any of those county assemblies are not being live streamed, any of those times that they are deliberating on permits and approvals over the TV, radio, being tweeted, so that people know firsthand what is happening and where the development is going in the county.
Good. We must democratize planning. I think it is so central that if we got our planning right, a lot of the issues we are talking about will be things of history. Whether it is traffic, jam that we have, you can go back to planning. What went wrong on where we locate things. So that is one thing that needs to be done. We need to empower people to engage effectively in the processes that are there. We have plenty of processes, but I get a sense people don't engage well.
Thank you once again to Elijah Lentangule, who is the Deputy Director of the National Lands Commission, to Elijah Egavi, who is a technical advisor of the Safe Nairobi Initiative and a member of the Governing Council of the Kenya Alliance for Residents Association. And thank you also to Robyn Emerson, who's the Regional Director of REMAPS here. And thank you also to all of you who have tweeted, who have written in, who have emailed, whatever it is you have done.